So welcome to Marshall Festival 15. My name is Marianne Murphy-Zarzana, and I'm the Director of the Creative Writing Program here at Southwest Minnesota State University. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and I see many faces of people who are here today, so thank you, and I hope you can join us for the next 2 days. Tonight we are going to be treated to an evening of stories and poetry with Gordon Henry and Leanne Rorapaugh. First, I'd like to thank some people. First of all, the generous sponsorship of Marshall Festival 15 was provided by SMSU's Access, Opportunity, Success AOS program and the SMSU Office of Diversity and Inclusion that made it possible to fund our visiting Native American writers such as Gordon Henry, who are past contributors to SMSU's Journal of Indigenous Voices, the Yellow Medicine Review. Thanks also to the SMSU Foundation for their financial support, and to many others for their indispensable support promoting Marshall Festival 15, including the SMSU Communications and Marketing Office, specifically Jim Tate and Marcy Olson, the SMSU English Department, the Marshall Festival Planning Committee, specifically Professor Judy Wilson and Professor Steve Pacheco, the SMSU Alumni Office and Director Michael Vandrelli, the SMSU Barnes & Noble Bookstore. Please go down there and buy books of the authors. If you miss their reading, they will be there throughout the festival and for quite a while until they're all gone. The SMSU Residence Hall Coordinator, Jessica Bentley. Some of our writers are staying in the residence halls for a little bit of throwback experience there. The SMSU Scheduling Office, Director Ron Shepweister and staff. SMSU Catering Manager, Kathleen Pruce and staff. SMSU Maintenance Director, Laura Botine and staff, and all those area residents who participated in the Marshall Festival Adopt an Author program and welcomed writers into their homes for homestays. First, Gordon Henry. Gordon is an Anishinabe poet, novelist, and enrolled member of the White Earth Chippewa tribe of Minnesota. His poetry has been published in anthologies such as Songs from This Earth, On Turtle's Back, Contemporary American Indian Poetry, and Returning the Gift, poetry and prose from the first Native American writers. His novel, The Light People, was awarded the American Book Award in 1995. He has also co-authored the textbook, The Ojibwe, to which he contributed a number of essays on Native American culture. Currently, Gordon Henry serves as the director of the Creative Writing Program and is a professor of English at Michigan State University. At this moment, please power down your electronic devices, and I will introduce Leanne afterwards. Gordon Henry.
Good evening, everyone. Anin Anishinabe, Anin Chumukamanak. First, I'd just like to give thanks for this day and this good life we've been given, and to the conference organizers for all the work they've done in bringing us here. I've been to Marshall before. It's been a few years. I can't even remember how long it was. But it's a great opportunity for me to return. And I'd like to thank Marianne and Judy for their work, both with creative writing and in Yellow Medicine Journal, and also the staff and students here at SMSU. I'm going to start out with some poems that I usually work with when I've been playing with a band of late, a jazz band. It's been a really good experience, and so I've tried to arc our performance across a few poems and some stories, and some spoken word kind of things too. But this is mostly book poetry, let's call it that. The first poem I'd like to read is called When Names Escaped Us. And part of what I thought might be interesting is to sort of tell the story behind the poem. I can't really figure out what the story behind this poem is. It's called When Names Escaped Us. This boy painted himself white and ran into the darkness. We let the words, he may be dead, bury him, bury him. We took his clothes to the rummage sale in the basement of the mission. We put his photographs and drawings in a bird cage and covered it with a star quilt. For 4 nighs, voices carried clear to the river. After winter, so many storms moved in. Strangers came among us. They danced. They shoveled in the shadows of trees. Then somehow, we all felt, all of us were of this one boy. The most difficult thing for me tonight to do, I think, is to be able to find the next poem I want to read. I don't use page numbers anymore. I'm supposed to be able to just intuit where the next poem is. There is a little bit of a story behind this next poem. It's called At Once You Recall the Thunder Song. And it's about a song that was given to a group of people up north in Turtle Mountain when I was there. And at that time, this old man came through the ceremonial that we were doing up there. It's called a thirst dance. And he said, I'm giving everyone here this song. And if you remember it, you sing it to your children when they're sick, or you sing it when you know somebody needs healing. Well, I couldn't remember that song. He sang it 4 times, and some people there picked it up. I didn't. But years later, after hearing it enough, I was able to learn it. But this poem is called At Once You Recall the Thunder Song. A village leaves every door open, and no one returns. Old stone woman smudges blue dishes under the blue-scarred moon at the guild hall. Bingo night eats up the aspirin girl on the blue television. Messages are never received for some reason. For another, a wild dog upsets garbage. Auntie uses an air rifle to silence the screaming of passionate cats. None of the singers will go into the mission. Under the influence of gasoline fumes, a boy runs naked into a barbed wire fence. The tribal custodian dances with a BIA mop. The chairman's deep in a dream of information about using information more effectively. From steep bluffs, you look deep into the river, held back by pointless dreams and simple songs of home. So I thought, just to be fair, I would try to alternate the dark and the light tonight. And so one of the poems that I've been reading with the band, and this is when they almost left me, is this poem called Entries into the Autobiographical I. It's kind of a poem, but it's also an essay. And I originally wrote this on the advice of a tribal writer, Elder Gerald Visner. It was to appear in an autobiographical collection. And I said, I've never written an autobiography, I don't really want to. He said, it's an important historic moment. I said, well, I can't write that. He said, well, just write as if you're performing. And I took that, didn't really help me that much, but I wrote this. Entries into the Autobiographical I. Jalad Rumi once wrote, live in the nowhere that you came from, even though you have an address here. The first door, I is not I. I am not postmodern or modern, a sign or signifier between signifieds, surreal or existential, neo-traditional or beat, transcendental or metaphysical, confessional shaman. I'm not a warrior or sun priest, trickster, nationalist, exile, or anthropocentric psychodramatizer. I'm not dishwasher safe, microwavable, Sunday supplement collector plate, sellout or shade, shadow chaser, orphan boy. I'm not a pop icon, trapper, trader, weaver, stone carver, powwow investor. I'm not an angel looking backwards, or an arboreal rodent roadkill, or coyote totem taster, clan speaker, band stander, or dream song sonnet carrier. I'm no Villanelle revivalist, or Wendigo washer, fumigator, freeze-dried mystic, heaven seeker, hell raiser, church leveler, drunken wanderer, sneaking, creeping, powwow playboy. I'm not 2/3 higher honor song singer, or hotel lecturer, casino medicine keeper, or shell-shooting crow or weasel. I'm not otter, turtle, better or worse, water spirit, star-gazing, anthropological shapeshifter. I'm not a checkout line half-breed hero, formula detective divided between ordinary and non-ordinary, authentic, natural, unnatural, deconstructive, white-hating, eros or ethos or pathos or Apollonian Dionysian radical. I'm not a card-carrying, blood quantum physicist, or an apple, golden, delicious, or otherwise. I'm not a tomahawk, hair splitter, polemicist, or a two-stepper 10 steps from a 12-stepper. I'm no thunder being, light being, righter of wrongs, or prepackaged bead-working pipe carrier, or pipe fitter, iron worker, artificer of law and politics, of extraterrestrial intelligence, or medicine wheeler spokesperson, or blackjack dealer, or a chaos theorist, a wardrobe keeper, sign wearer, or graffiti artist, or epidermal epistemologist with nobody home, or next of kin, Wabano crystal gazer, or New Age bookseller with a men's movement mind, a biological timekeeper, a one or only to be forgotten. I am not any of the above. These are just some of my relatives. Some of them are buried between memories of turning leaves. Some live as we speak. Some of them are on the road. Some of them have traveled many roads. Some of them good. Some of them red. Some of them not red. Many of them red, not good. Many of them good, not red. Many of them both or neither. Still, they are my relations, and for them I am thankful. Go to a few darker pieces here again and then turn back to something lighter. This is, I write a lot of short sort of images, lyric poems, and I don't know if it was compliment or not, but I was reading at the Spanish American Studies Conference, and this British woman said to me, "You write some of the clearest poems I've ever heard." And I don't know, maybe they don't want clarity, but maybe this one doesn't seem so clear to me. October, Minnehaha Avenue. On the red Formica table, over Pontiac keys, a cup of coffee, and a 20 for enough gas to get home. Talk is nearing enough to fire your weeping cousin's gun as old man tobacco smokes, drifts like a song, and buries the intellectual shadow beyond stations of memory. Another darker one. So I was driving back from that same ceremony I was telling you about a few years later, and there's a guy sitting on a headstone in the cemetery of the church up there, and saw him holding a bag to his face. And so I wrote this poem called Postmodern Res Edge Inhalation, Paint Thinner Sublime. Chemical angels ride into this vacant space as walls and windows drip away into western fronts. Post-depression farm boundaries barely barbed wired together. Enclosed stone pile pastures, a gray horse standing still, facing north. A snort of breath drifting to a rail car passing horizon. The wind hinting the spirit of ice. Nights so long, you can only hope. The red blood circling for warmth in your cells doesn't freeze here with the rest of this lost American dream. So that's pretty uplifting. And with that, I thought I might just give you a clue. Sometimes I know there's a lot of other Native writers here with us tonight, and we're asked the question, maybe not anymore, just what is Native Lit? What is American Indian Lit? And I figured the best way to answer it was to try to write a poem as to how to write American Indian Lit. So if anyone here wants to try to do this after, I'll be accepting those poems as well. Maybe I can add it to mine at some point. But this is simple 4-part instructions for making Indian Lit. Beijing for the money. Take something Indian and take something non-Indian. Make the Indian indigenous or native or skin. Make the non-Indian, non-indigenous, or non-native, or non-skin, or white. 2 for the Junia. Make the Indian non-Indian and the non-Indian Indian and the white Indian. 3. Make a character out of paper. Write a name with fire or sky, or the combination of color and the names of birds, or the absence of an article with a present tense verb from a limited number of infinitives. You may include prepositions, except for the following prepositions: forego, between, beyond, under, over, into, across, beside, beneath. Avoid abstractions, slang, economic terms, hip phrases, or contemporary situations or signs. You cannot use, for example, the following names: foregoes hawk, undercrow, into deer, values dog, love crane, dances similar, in the middle of the night, red thunder banging, across wolf, eating horse, bling eagle, has and trust, many shoes, sun dude, chicklet. You can't use the name donut shop, yard sale man, beneath the ground, upside the head, do not cross, out of position, don't use big credit, bear pimp, stone suitcase, ice cream turtle, calls the taxi, waits for bus, bums a smoke, speaks the Bible, running mascara, Saint Muscat, graffiti clouds, air flute, telescope woman, medicine cheese, caramel bowl, Mrs. Layups, nice one, red exit, you can't use off limits or even working man. So maybe take a break, offer prayers to the polytheistic Indo-European spirits of syntax, inscribe a smoke or ceremony, add laughter to fighting, tears to anything sounding like history, reinscribe Indian, non-Indian, white, repeat, smoke, smudge, rinse, repeat, imperialism, conquest, imperialism, disease, conquest, alcohol, imperialism, conquest, guns, bow, imperialism. Make languages of crossing tongues as simple as powwows for profit and dying Chevy, as complex as Aristotle remains ethical and remains of Indians remain catalog. Use newspapers, magazines, museum brochures, Scotoghan, flint and match, roll characters, names, words onto paper, paper into rolls, rub with bear grease and lard or last night's ground beef grease. This will not work with olive oil or sunflower oil. Say 4 Hail Marys, a couple of ahos, a kawi kin, ignite all of the above. 4. After all this becomes lit, be careful about who you read to. They may be hearing Indian and everything non-Indian, as what remains from fire is not spirit. So I heard someone today talking about anachronisms, and I think maybe that's what I am kind of, but my friend used to leave messages on my answering machine, and I'm not even sure people have those anymore. I mean, I would imagine he could do it on a cell phone as well. And so I wrote this poem in response to that, and so it's going to change voices in the middle. And the reason I changed voices is because my cousin told me about this guy. My cousin Terry Yellowhammer from Minneapolis told me that this guy had the fakest res accent she ever heard, so she wanted me to know that. I don't know why, but anyway. This poem is titled, If Only John Ashbery Were Gregory Corso, If Only Gregory Corso Was the Terracotta Horse on the Coffee Table with a magazine open to You Can Be an Artist Too ad. That's the title. Has not much to do with that. You'll figure it out. Morning's another mouthful of smoke. Somewhere in this land of little vegetable labels. Another dog is chained to a northern laundry pole with no lines running between and its rusting southern double, casting a T shadow. 2 vowels. The Anishinabe linguist of no standardized federal extract has left another series of ethical questions on my answering machine, which I will not respond to until I know he will not pick up his own phone, as he will be sleeping in a skin of bear grease under a blanket of flying horses with a woman whose intelligence remains more powerful in silence than in all of his spoken words. Must the questions always be released under the same ritual of the pointing finger pulling away from the button reading messages? Hey, Gord, if someone gives me tobacco to give to someone else for a name, do they have to give me gas money to get the offering to the namer? Do we have to use the same species of tree for the ceremony this year? Can I sweat with the women of the tribe who will tell sacred stories to strangers even when there's no snow on the ground? Hey, Chief, what color cloth should I bring to the feast for the last thunder at the urban traditionalist house? Hey, how many pipes should I smoke to make the sun dry the tears on my father's grave? Did you hear the one about the Republican tribal planner and the Republican lobbyists? Is it okay to harvest strawberries in view of the cemetery? After I burn wood, what's the proper prayer for remembering the wood as I smell the smoke on my jacket in the frozen food section of the Red Owl store? Hey, I hit a turkey on the freeway. Should I eat it or offer it to the soup kitchen people? Did you ever find that gambling medicine your aunt used the night she won on the Dolphin slot machines? Do I have to smudge my Corolla after every oil change, or do I have to have an oil change if I smudge my Corolla every 3,000 miles? What kind of Indian would Jesus be if Jesus was Indian? Is that gambling medicine green? And do little clusters of buds stick to your hands when you go to harvest it? Can my wife wear my grandmother's golden cross to the next ghost supper? What time should I come for the singing? Can I bring my cousin who just got back from Kandahar? After a while, all machines are like answering machines. They fill up and there's no room for anything human inside. So I just pass the housed image of my glass, transparent ghost self, reflected in the wind antics of exterior branches. And I go where I always go after one machine is full. I get a cup of coffee and I empty another. Then I pick up the phone and touch the numbers, the letters, the signs, all points of transmission. A lost voice hides in a sonic code vibration, in a persistent resonant hiss, waiting to crack open the night, splitting vowels, breaking infinitives of infinitives, to go line by line from a room with a terracotta horse, a sleeping dog, an ashtray of many camel butts, a magazine open to "You Can Be an Artist Too" ad, to a room two vowels may never go into again, a hallway away, oh hey, away from the dream consonant anarchy of his stuttering apnea. After all, to hear what I have said instead of what I am saying will mean he will not be standing in the same sunstruck morning space of more questions and answers for his rapidly filling answering machine. How am I doing for time out here? I've only got about 10 more short stories to read. And then I think I might call it a night. I hope you don't mind. And so a few years ago, let's get dark again if I can find it. Friends of a lot of us committed suicide. And sometimes I think it's better to just take those things head on and try to imagine what it would be like to be in that space and that frame of mind and deal with it. And so I wrote this one called Res Edge Suicide Muse. The less dramatic seek a life of wine. Some deeper down downer. Brain killer inhalants for the poorer. Paint thinner. Some non-stick aerosol maybe. Some go deeper into winter until January snow makes the road away from home impassable. Return the better than true drawn out hope of freezing. Some seek the solace of spectators, watching the same games over and over, as some follow insomnia on streets plowed toward cold, lurid dawn. In this place, pain doesn't speak. It inhabits. It tithes remorse, slits skin quick exits, ties ropes to rafters, then backs down the ladder, refuses to answer phones, lets letters fill the mailbox, feeds the moods of oligarch shadows. There are more ways of doing this than all the recounts of all dark nights. So hang 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old larger than memory photographs on walls intended to keep others out. Talk all you want. She won't say. Conversation only goes so far. Dies in the hum of machinery, in the creak of a house of nothing to do but sleep. It would be useless to try to hear what suicide says anyway. She has her own subtonal music, cast in a theater of lip sync, and dispersions of frost, and lines at a cemetery service where wind stirs grit into faces, despair blows holes open in the earth. She imagines song, your own voice, God speak coming out of the ground, saying something, saying, you'll always be welcome here in the earth. I don't know if I had anything to make that happy. I think I have time just to read a short passage of prose. This is supposed to be story night, so I thought it would be a really good idea if we, at some point, wrote an anthology of American Indian literature that parodied American Indian literature, called the Brand X Anthology of American Indian Literature. There was a time when there was a Brand X Anthology of American Literature, and I really loved that anthology because some of the stuff in some of the parodies were better than the originals. And so I thought that'd be quite a test for a writer to write a parody. So I thought I would contribute to that by writing my own. And this is a short piece, and I hope it doesn't go too long, but it's based on the Brand X Anthology of American Indian Literature. I won't tell you what writer is supposed to be parodied here. Autumn Rematriations. We were knocked before we were winnowed and hulled. We were parched and soaked before we were mixed into suburban exotica recipes. But every fall we entered the rice lottery and got up to go ricing the way our aunts and uncles did. No, that's not it. We were frozen before we were boiled. And we were boiled before we lost our last cedar paddle from our last bark canoe. But we came out of the water and went back to town and got up to go fishing the next day anyway. And we fought our lurid dreams and our day school education, and we brought back our relatives when no one else knew where they were. I know. I was there when Autumn Bingishmuk jump-started a dead Nova with her tongue in a bear claw. One on negative, the other on positive. I was there when she sliced open the Air Force bomber pilot at a Western restaurant in Grand Forks for saying those savages deserved it, as he bragged about dropping skin-liquidating ordnance on women and children in tribal villages. I was there when she talked Duchesne into backing his truck up to the Catholic Church so she could fill the confessionals with stones before Palm Sunday Mass. And I was there when she got a pit boss fired because he couldn't find a dealer who could keep her from winning at blackjack in the Milky Way Casino. Yes, my people, I know what you're thinking. I'm an old man, more mindful of desire than truth. That I was close to Autumn and more interested in her sexually than culturally. But I only slept with her once, and the motel had a leaky faucet, and the one book in the room told us gods and legends are made immaculate in mystery and conception, not in fornication near the Canadian border. Others will tell you, Autumn is gone, and that is as good as things will get. They can believe what they want, but their wants are like their beliefs. Vacuous church Sundays, lost weekends, the jealous hangovers of Friday night fiddle music, and the slurred resonance of karaoke skins with one too many screwdrivers sloshing over their florid beaded belt buckles. Some will even say, Autumn never was and never will be. None have said it to my face, and I suspect none will, as long as I am alive and as long as the name Minogijish still lives on this reservation. And they can be sure this name will live as long as the Red Branch drum sings the good day traveling song to the boys going off to war, and as long as they continue to eat the fry bread Minogijish grandmothers invented when BIA agents gave us flour for stories we would tell over a hot cup of coffee in the cannibal winters of the Dawes Act displacements. But that's another story. And this is about Autumn Ipingishimuk. And every story about Autumn is about who we really are, whether we believe it or die of that great white man's disease, and perhaps his most powerful teaching, denial. I think that's enough for tonight. I thank you all for listening. Miigwech. Just one disclaimer, the views of that character are not necessarily my views. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gordon.